एक run case. Kindly give me 2 minutes to write a message. लिखो अमित. Okay, I have this curriculum, right? We had looked at it yesterday. Let me check that, Tarun. Just give me a second. अरे यार, checking text का मतलब the text that it's going to use to check, right? So you have test cases, है ना? And then you have the entry that you can give to it, right? So basically, whatever you have written as a text, that may be failing. Actually, Aisha at Slack has sent us some HTML CSS sheet where in a few things aren't discussed in class. When I asked her if we have to do it ourselves or will it be done in the class, she told me to discuss with you. What is that sheet, Amit? Where can I find that sheet? Show me that sheet. Data NS test kya hota hai? Guys, so when you have HTML tags, right? Or you have HTML elements, each HTML element can have one property, right? These are called data star properties, okay? So whenever you say data star, star का मतलब होता है इसके आगे कुछ भी, right? So data star के आगे इन्होंने क्या लिखा है? They've written -ns -test, whatever, right? So what this helps them do is, whenever they are running their test cases, they are able to reference these divs in their JavaScript code, right? And then in JavaScript code, they are able to test these things, right? Whatever test cases they want to run on it. So these are called data-n star attributes, right? So we can Google data attributes. They're not right now relevant for us, but when we study JavaScript, we'll just pick it up and I'll tell you how to select, how to work with these. It does not do anything, Rahul. It's just that it's for selecting a certain group of elements, right? तो आप जिसको भी डेटा वाला चीज लिख दोगे ना, डेटा डैश कुछ भी लिख दोगे, right? Then you can easily select these elements, right? That so it's one think of it as a different type of selector. Understood? Understood. How can we give them value? It's very simple, right? Data dash ns dash something, and you give them value. See, it's not, yeah, ऐसे मत सोचो that it's a class, right? Think of it this way, that it's an attribute. ठीक है? Class is a special type of attribute जिसका CSS में significance होता है. ऐसे बहुत सारे attributes होते हैं which will have no significance in CSS. An example of that is when you say input type is equal to text, right? Or you say anchor tag, a tag, and you have a HREF property of it, right? So they don't have a CSS significance. It does not always have to mean that you are going to assign something to it, right? कि आपको उसमें कुछ डालना है. Think of it this way, it's just a property of that HTML tag, right? So all HTML tags have, जैसे हर एक HTML tag की property होती है ID class, data attributes भी ऐसे करके is a property of every HTML tag. Why is that required? Because it allows you to select things with JavaScript, right? And that's what helps. Making sense? I know थोड़ा abstract लग रहा होगा अभी, but without teaching you about JavaScript, I'll not be able to explain this in any more detail. Guys, कुछ तो बोलो. समझ आया, नहीं समझ आया? You got it or not? Somewhat got it, na? Don't worry. When we'll start JavaScript, then these things will make a lot of sense. So when I teach you about selectors in HTML, then I'll explain it. Right? Twitter homepage रुक जाओ यार, थोड़ी JS तो सीख लो पहले. See, right now we have to operate in certain bounds, certain conditions, right? The conditions are, आप लोगों को JS नहीं आती अभी, right? The only thing that you know right now is HTML and CSS, right? So there are a lot of avenues, there are a lot of areas right now, जिसके बारे में मैं अभी बात नहीं कर सकता हूँ, right? If I try to do them, let's say, it will be hard for you. आप समझ नहीं पाओगे. When they, how are they giving you assignment based on JS? कहाँ पे दिया है राहुल, बताओ. Where have they given you? They have, or I don't know यार, ये न्यूटन स्कूल वाले. Share that PDF again. अमित आपने कोई PDF share किया था? Just share that again. Let me check it. What is that thing about? No, they asked us to do that using HTML and CSS. Amit, just share it now once. Let me just open that thing which Amit has shared. Let me check this. Okay. Let me check this. Hang on. Course curriculum send कर दिया. Okay, let me just open this here. Do I open this? It's called. So I have course curriculum. This is HTML, CSS, PDF, right? Okay, let me check it out here. Just give me a second, huh? In this new M1 Mac, there's a lot of bug in the Zoom app. Hang on, let me take it from Slack. Stable and CSS PDF. Okay. ठीक है, I'm looking at it. Let me share my screen. साथ में देखते हैं. रुको तो सही विकास भाई, एक बार देख तो नहीं. What are you guys talking about? I have no context. Can you see the screen, guys? Yes, ये दिख रहा है आपको? Okay, let's look at it. ठीक है, साथ में. What is semantic HTML? How to create nested web page in HTML? Why is a URL encoded in HTML? What is the advantage of collapsing white space? How do you create? See, it's not that इसमें ऐसी कुछ चीजें हैं which we have not covered. इसमें most of the things that I see that we have not covered, right? Right? So guys, this is something entirely different. So maybe what these people are trying to do is that they are trying to give you all the possible questions of HTML and CSS which can come in your what do you say, in an interview, right? So this is an interview bank. This is a question bank, right? Interview questions hai na ye. So what you need to do is see, what we have learned up until now is basically what was in our curriculum, right? Getting my point, guys? So in your curriculum, we had, it was not mentioned SVG kya hota hai. Matlab, we didn't discuss SVG, right? So if you look at it, HTML in itself is extremely large, right? If I had to teach you HTML, I can go do that for, I can do it for 3 months. I can just teach you HTML, right? If you have to become an expert in HTML, right? But just trying to understand the intention here. Abhi hame kya karna hai? We just have to touch things, right? We have to build some basic competency about it, right? then we have to start looking at things holistically altogether, right? So अभी हमने CSS सीख लिया, हमने HTML सीख लिया. Now we know the basics of it. We know some depth also of it, right? And the depth that we know is the depth. अरे यार ये किसने लिख दिया यहाँ पे? हाँ. For example, in topics like CSS, right? Media queries. These are some depth of it, right? But things like these, of course, we have not covered, right? And we will most likely not be covering them. Abhi ke liye. So this is an interview question bank for your reference, right? So see, there is one approach jahan pe I take all of these questions one by one karke, and I tell you what it means. But you don't need that, right? What you need to do is you need to sit down, right, in front of your laptop, read each of these questions in your personal time and understand iske andar kuch kya likha hai. And then when there are specific queries or some things, you can ask me or you can ask your mentor or whatever, right? But like, we can't cover every specific nitty-gritty, right? So these are all possible types of questions जो HTML and CSS में typically पूछे जाते हैं. Getting my point, guys? Amit, ठीक है? Yes, please interrupt. Amit, बताओ क्या concern है? Amit has some concern. Amit, बताओ. If you say, can you unmute for a minute? ठीक है. I will unmute you for a minute. Hang on. Go on.
Hi, good evening, sir. Am I audible?
You are perfectly.
Sir, very sorry. I have interrupted the class for this particular thing.
Go on, go on.
And I was desperately dying to talk to you. I'll just take maybe 1 or 2 minutes. यहाँ major जो issue हो रहा है, like lot many students, we also interact. So I see few people are getting demotivated and demoralized. And basic thing is I understand, sir, what you said about HTML, and not only for HTML, for in fact everything.
Correct.
You cannot cover it up in 1 week, 10 week or something like that.
Okay.
But यहाँ क्या है ना सर, correspondence नहीं हो पाने के कारण, mentor session नहीं हो पाने के कारण, like I feel that all of us are feeling lack of guidance and lack of communication. So I just requested one thing. आज मैंने Slack पे भी लिखा है कि for those who are not having mentor sessions, maybe we can form a group of our own, and then whatever doubts and things would be left out, we'll then fall back on you. If you have a little bit of time for us, will be very helpful, sir. And sir, one more thing. Hello.
Yeah, I'm just typing out twice.
Sure.
Right now.
Sure. You do that, so that I'll speak.
Let me discuss.
May I continue, sir?
Go on.
और ये क्या हुआ ना sir, last I believe it started on Monday when the new Slack group and everything was formed and a lot many things happened. So उसके बाद I do have call recording, sir. I generally do not use call recording, but I purposely recorded it. एक मैंने अपने WhatsApp group में भी डाला था, and I'm willing to share the same with you also. I got a call from Newton School, I believe yesterday evening, and you know what? They were asking me, if you are interested, we can put you in another group. If you are interested, we can move you out of Parikshit's group. I said, why? अगर मेरा परीक्षित के साथ कुछ ऐसा problem रहे, whether he is unable to solve my doubts, then I asked somebody, he called me, he said, नहीं, instructor के साथ ना हमारा कोई बात नहीं होता. I said कि boss देखो, whatever the flow of class is, आप recording देख सकते हो, everything is there. लेकिन जो हमारा assignment मिल रहा है is not in tandem with what is going on in class. ठीक है, अगर आप ये बोलो कि this is what you have to do on your own also, तो ठीक है, some guidance from you and some help from here and then, we can do it. It's not that it's an impossible task. But ये लोग ना सर, ये लोग दूसरे ही tangent में चल जाते हैं. और मुझे तो ये भी कहा गया है कि अमित, if you like, well and fine, or else you can proceed to something else. तो मैंने कहा, what is it, your way, is it my way or the highway? The person said, yes, it is like that. तो ऐसा है. But then specifically saying, sir, I have been into little bit of computer science, इधर उधर थोड़ा मोड़ा, थोड़ा नॉलेज बहुत चीजों का था. When I'll speak to you personally, बहुत सारी चीजों पे बात करेंगे. But the way you have explained certain things which was not to my knowledge, so I don't know whether I'll be continuing the class or not, whether I'll be allowed to continue the class or not, the way things are going. So I'll surely be very thankful towards you.
That's fine, yaar. I mean, this section of the conversation is not important. वो छोड़ो अभी.
नहीं, ये लेकिन है सर, लोगों को सर आज 10 दिन हुआ है हमारा बैच फाइनलाइज हुए, मेंटर सेशन नहीं है सर. आपने वो ग्रेड वाला जो कहा ना, ग्रेड फॉर अ बिगिनर इट्स नॉट एन इजी टास्क. कल सर हम लोगों का ग्रेड का था. अच्छा, यू नो सर, देयर वर 2 असाइनमेंट्स लास्ट 2 days. उसमें लिखा है इन क्लास या ड्यूरिंग क्लास, कुछ ऐसा. एंड आई एम श्योर कि न्यूटन स्कूल की तरफ से आपको ऐसा कोई करस्पॉन्डेंस नहीं दिया गया होगा दैट क्लास में कुछ असाइनमेंट के बारे में बताना है या बच्चों से क्लास के दौरान इस असाइनमेंट को सॉल्व कराना है. And if you want, sir, you can ask any of the 155 odd candidates. किसी का भी ID पासवर्ड लेकर के आप डैशबोर्ड में जाकर के देख सकते हो सर. असाइनमेंट में लिखा हुआ है इन क्लास, आफ्टर क्लास, ऐसा.
Amit, I'll just stop you here. I'll have to mute you. Sorry.
Sorry, sir. Sorry.
No, it's completely fine. I mean, everything is valid what you said. Just that I'll just talk about it.
Sure.
Sorry, I had to mute you, Amit. Anyway, I'll just tell my part of it. Feel free to type out on the text, Amit. But otherwise, things will just, go haywire. So, guys, what I'm trying to tell you is, as an instructor, as a mentor, whatever you call me, right? I am here to deliver the best quality content to you, right? Now, I have certain limitations, and my limitations are predominantly around time, right? When I say time, it means that I have limited bandwidth in a day, and that is when I'm trying to cater the best to you, right? Whatever is going on with between Newton School and all these things, I have zero context, right? So what Amit, you are telling me right now is something which is completely blowing my mind, right? So I was not aware that this thing is happening. So from my end, what I'm going to do is I'll probably try to reach out to Aisha. I'll reach out to some senior folks in Newton School, and I'll just try to iron these things out, right? Because these are all very valid concerns, right? If you are coming here, right, and you're trying to learn, see, at the end of the day, there are only 2 things which should happen here, right? One is learning, the other is teaching, right? I don't know of a third thing, right? So I will from my end try to escalate this. I will try to talk about this because at the end of the day, the reason I'm here is I want your learning to get maximized, right? I want to give back to the fraternity which has made me, which is the tech fraternity, right? So this is very concerning, and this is not what I had expected, honestly. I had zero idea. I didn't even know that you guys have assignments and stuff here, honestly. I come here, I'm told, hey, this is the syllabus, and I don't even follow the syllabus, honestly. I just try to teach in as much depth or as much breadth as I can. And then later I look at the syllabus and realize, oh, it was not done. And then I try to cover that, right? So these things, they are not adding value to anyone here. I mean, you as students are suffering. I completely understand that. But इसने ये नहीं बताया, उसने वो नहीं बताया, is not adding value to it, right? At the end of the day, we are a part of a system, right? And we have to work within the system, right? So we'll try to fix this, right? I'll just work with some people in Newton School and just try to bring this to their attention. And that's it for now, guys. I'll just stop talking about it and let me do whatever best I can do from my side in order to possibly remediate the situation, right? And okay, let's stop discussing. Let's stop talking about ये सब चीजें and let's just study, right? Right now. अभी के लिए सिर्फ पढ़ाई करते हैं and ये सब चीजें लेके आते हैं बाद में, है ना? Right? So, Amit, my only problem, buddy, honestly, is I just have these 2 hours in the day, right? 9 to 11 ke beech mein, whatever is left apart from your course, I will be able to help out with that. It's just that at the end of the class, typically people get so burnt out because the concepts are new. You guys are, very new to this, that there's little bandwidth, there's little mental bandwidth जो आप लोगों के पास बचती है, and that's why we have to operate within certain constraints, certain bounds. But anyway, we try to do the best possible thing. So ठीक है, I'll try to remediate this by speaking to Newton School. That is what I can do, and believe me, I was not aware of any of this. I am not told most of the things. I just come here to teach, man. And out of the 2 hours of my 24 hours, and there is no other interaction with you guys, with Newton School, with nobody, right? So I just want to utilize these 1.5, 2 hours, whatever time, very well, to deliver you the highest quality content. That is my only North Star. That is my only intention, right? Okay, enough talking. Now I am going to start teaching you Git. Okay. This was the question. What is it called? It's called display grid, grid template columns, 20% grid template row, water 1, water 2. Okay. It's not a problem, Rahul. See, we discussed yesterday, na, grid template columns kya hota hai, grid template rows kya hota hai. Just read about that. FR means, what do you mean by that, Pavan? I don't know what FR is. Okay, fraction means, where is fraction written? I don't. Okay, guys, I'll just get back to you later on this. I do not want to break the flow right now anymore. We'll talk about this, okay? Probably at the end of the class tomorrow. Let's just start with Git, yeah, for now, okay? Let's just have some let's just have some positive, good things to learn today, right? Let's just forget about everything right now, enough? Okay. At the end of the day, we are here to learn. And I'm going to get a duster tomorrow, I promise. So Git kya hota hai? Okay, what is Git? Git is a VCS, right? It's a technology for VCS, right? What does VCS means? VCS ka matlab hota hai version control, right? So you need to control the version of your code, which goes in, which comes out, and a lot of things happen, right? So basically, guys, hota kya hai? In Git as a version control system, Git kya hota hai? Git is a software, right? Now, it's not a software in the sense that it looks like Microsoft Word or Microsoft whatever, right? Or whatever apps जो भी होती हैं यार आपके computer में, laptop में, whatever. So Git is actually a command line tool, right? What is a command line tool? Command line tools are things that you type out on a terminal or a Windows command prompt or whatever, right? So those are called command line tools, and this is a VCS, right? Git is a VCS. So VCS is a software that helps engineers like you and me. I mean, some might not be an engineer, so it helps people who are working on code to work together, right? So guys, typically in large organizations, and typically when you're working as a part of team, right, there's a lot of code sharing that you need to do, right? So let's say there are two developers who are working on one code piece, right? So let's say this is a piece of code, right? So this is code, and two things are happening here, right? So I am D1, developer 1, and you are D2, right? And there can be n number of Ds, right? Which are working on the same code base, right? So what can happen, guys, is we need to have some sort of versioning of the code, right? So there needs to be some standard wherein आप लोग collaboratively काम कर पाओ code पे, right? So what this means is, since we are working on the same code base, right? Just imagine there's a company, right, in which there are 10 team members, right? Those 10 team members all are working on the same code base, right? So since they're working on the same code base, right, all of them will eventually have to make changes to the same code, right? So just take an example, right? So let's say all of us were trying to build an app, okay? So we were trying to build an app. Now this app is of course going to have n number of files. There could be 100 files, 200 files, whatever inside that app, right? So उस app में क्या होगा, guys? It's going to have, since it's an app, let's say it has 100 files. I'll just give a simple example, okay? And there is 50 of us, right? So maybe I'm working on file A, maybe you're working on file B, and everyone is working on some file of theirs, right? So let's say I'm the manager. I say, hey, Amit, your job is to work on these 2 files. Sweta, you have to take care of these 5 files, right? So now what you'll do is you have to, now the code base is same, right? And the code base is same. So Sweta is working on, let's say Sweta is D2, Amit is D1. Sweta is working on the same code, right? She's working on same files or not same files, which Amit is working on, and someone else is working. So you got the point, right? So basically, same code, more developers, right? Now, the problem that can happen, guys, is let's say I write some code, right? And of course, before saying that, you need to have a common repository. This is called repository of code, which is lying somewhere, right? Which is lying on a server or somewhere, right? And why do you need that? You need that because these guys, right, who were working on the code, they can't store it on their local machines, right? Because let's say tomorrow some new developer comes to my organization, he would need to fetch the code from the cloud, right? So we keep our repository in the cloud, right? So of course, since it's the cloud, D1 and D2 will have to access it, right? So they can pull the code into their system, right? So D1 pulls the code, D2 pulls the code, okay? And once D1 and D2 have pulled the code, they need to do something in here, right? So let's say D1 ने कुछ change कर लिया, right? D1 did some changes and it has pushed the code back to the cloud. So what are the concepts we know? There's a common repository जिससे D1 काम कर रहा था, D1 ने push कर दिया, right? So now this repository in here, it has to have some intelligence of its own, right? Why am I saying this? Let's say there was one file, right? Let's call it a.html, right? Let's say there was a file a.html. ठीक है? उसके line 3, 4, and 7 में Sweta has made some changes. उसके line 3 to मतलब some common lines, Amit has made changes, right? Now Sweta just pushed her code, right? Right? जिसमें उसने 3, 4, and 7 lines change किए हैं, right? But the version of code which these guys had pulled earlier, let's say it was called V1, right? So this was V1, and अभी अमित के पास भी V1 था, right? Now when Shweta pushed the code ऊपर to the repository after making her changes, the version is no longer V1, right? Let's say now it's called V1.1, okay? But Amit has still made his changes to V1, right? So when he has to push the code, it's not like V1 discard हो जाएगा, right? It means कि श्वेता ने जो 3 लाइन छेड़ी थी, टच की थी, and जो अमित ने बाकी लाइंस चेंज की हैं, they have to get merged in some manner, right? That's how we'll be able to share code and collaboratively work on the code, right? Are you guys understanding what I'm talking about? Basically, Git provides, bhai, itna teez mat likho. Basically, Git provides features so that whole team can work collaboratively on the same time. So that is one bit of it. There is more to it. Means different people work on different modules together in project. Yes. ठीक है, सब समझ रहे हो, बढ़िया बढ़िया, सुनते जाओ. So दोनों के पास V1 था, दोनों ने कुछ कोड चेंजेस किए एक सेम फाइल में, and they pushed it here to this guy, right? When they pull it, it comes here, right? Now, when Shweta was having her code in this guy, right? And she wanted to push something onto the server, onto the top right. She must be told by the repository that, hey, something has changed in this file, right? So basically what it means is there needs to be some sort of a versioning of the code. Did you guys understand that? Code needs to be versioned. Why does it need to be versioned? Because not having a code which is versioned will cause a lot of problems, right? What kind of problems will that code cause, right? Whatever changes Amit had made, if Shweta just overrides them, then there's no point, right? Then how can we collaboratively work, right? You have to honor my changes. I have to honor your changes, and then collaboratively we work to do something. Okay? Okay? Yes, I'll come to that, all those things. ठीक है, सबको समझ आ रहा है? Looks like a good news. Okay, so you know the problem now, right? The problem is very sorted. अब solution की भी बात कर लेते हैं, right? So पहले कुछ हमें tools चाहिए, guys, right? When I say tools, I mean I very easily said that a file needs to be versioned, right? But how does a file get versioned, right? What does versioning even mean, right? So let's say there is some version of the file, right? You made certain changes to that file. It has to create a new version of that file, right? Getting my point, people? Just to बोला है लोगों ने should have access to each other's repo. No, they will be working on the same version now. So this guy also got V1, this guy also got V1, right? This guy did some changes, this guy did some changes, right? Now it's a highly unlikely scenario that they both did the same changes, right? ऐसा थोड़ी ना होता है. मतलब you can't, if you're similar line on line, that means it's not possible, right? Or it's very unlikely. Anyway, the point is, whenever you have done certain changes in a file, it needs to get a different version now, right? So basically, this gets a different version, this gets a different version, and the repository here handles the intelligence कि इन दोनों को merge किस तरीके से करना है. There is nothing as simultaneous here. Either one of them will do it, एक बारी में, otherwise other person will do it. It's a millisecond level accuracy. The odds of both of them reaching to the server at the same time are negligible. It's not possible actually, right? It's a 1 in a billion event. Yes, the time you modified version gets changed. ठीक है, अभी के लिए इतना ही समझो. अब आगे बात करते हैं. Okay. तो हमने बात की what is a VCS. VCS is a version control system. What we need to understand is ये चलता कैसे है, ठीक है? Git में क्या होता है यार? आपके पास मतलब Git होता क्या है? Git is a software जो हर एक repository के लिए होता है, right? Let me just write some code and show you how it works, okay? Today is the first time that I'm going to write code in front of you, okay? It's a big move for all of us. Are you able to see this screen? Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a folder, right? Which will be my repository, right? So how do I make a folder? I say mkdir and I'll say ns for Newton School, right? So I go inside ns, right? एंड अभी के लिए ls which means whatever is present in Newton school अभी के लिए वो कुछ भी नहीं, राइट. नाउ व्हाट आई एम गोइंग टू डू गाइस इज मैं इसके अंदर अपनी फाइल्स डाल दूंगा, राइट, हमारी अपनी फाइल्स जो अपन रोज रोज पढ़ते हैं. So abc.html I have def html मेरे पास है, responsive 3, responsive 2, responsive भी मेरे पास है, इतने ही थे शब्द. हाँ, and I'm going to drag all of them to ns. Okay, now when I do ls here, you see these 5 files. These are basically the things that we have worked in during the last couple of days or couple of weeks or whatever, right? So now to make this file a git repository का ये मतलब है that it starts working with the intelligence of git, right? इसका मतलब अगर मैं किसी भी फाइल में कोई भी चेंज करूं तो मुझे पता लगना चाहिए मैंने क्या चेंज किया, is the first thing, right? And there should be versioning, right? अब समझते हैं वो कैसे होता है, right? So for initializing a git repository I say something called as git init, right? So now it has initialized a empty repository. How can I know that? जैसे ही मैं git status बोलता हूँ, it's telling me these files are untracked right now. So अभी मत पूछना मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ. I'll tell you everything, don't worry. But अभी के लिए just bear with me, हाँ. Okay, कुछ भी नहीं हुआ, nothing happened. Okay. So these are the files that you have in your git, right? And of course, Amit, very true. बिना git install किए तो you will not be able to do anything. And it really depends on the kind of system that you have. So I have a Mac. For Windows, there will be a different way to install it. For Linux, there will be a different way to install it. But the commands are going to remain same. ठीक है? So irrespective of जो भी आप install करो, I think the installation should be fairly simple. I have not used any other operating system for a couple of years, so I don't know how to install it. But I think the setup will be very simple, I'm guessing, right? So just Google it, how to install Git. नहीं तो if you're facing a problem, I'll tell you. ठीक है? Okay. So now that I said this, okay. Okay. Yeah. I think I don't know which what operating system you're using, but anyway, let's get to the point. So अभी के लिए यहाँ पे बहुत सारी फाइल खुली हुई है, right? अब समझते हैं. When I do git status, right? It tells me on branch master. Branch क्या होता है? ये सारी terms मैं अभी बताऊंगा, बस अभी के लिए देख लो. So it tells me on branch master nothing to commit, working tree clean, right? इसका मतलब ये है guys that किसी भी फाइल में कोई भी चेंज नहीं है अभी, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open all of these things. I'll just open my code editor, right? And I'll just share that also with you. Okay. Are you guys able to see the code editor? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. So let's say I open responsive HTML, right? Now, let's say Amit comes up to me. He says, I don't like blue color. I said, okay, let me change it to blanched diamond or brown, because I'll have a hard time speaking that, right? So basically, there has been now there is a change in the file which has happened, right? So now Git, which is essentially a version control system, should have some knowledge, some sense कि भाई कुछ change हुआ, right? तो पहले Git status किया था तो it showed everything is clean, right? Now I'll again do Git status. And what does it say, guys? Read this. Did you see what happened? Guys, आपको दिखा यहाँ पे क्या हुआ? Right? So somehow magically, it knows that, hey, there has been some change in the file, right? Right? So Git का काम क्या है सबसे पहला? कि it maintains versioning of the file system, right? So whenever the version of this file has slightly changed, ये आपको बता रहा है that, hey, this file has been altered, right? Got it? बट एक बात और भी समझो. So when I was talking about this example, so this is the scenario जहाँ पे श्वेता ने और अमित ने अपने अपने कंप्यूटर्स पे दोनों ने अलग अलग गिट रिपोजिटरीज पुल किए, right? So this is that git repository, right? Which let's say Sweta has pulled, right? We don't know, Git knows. Rahul, abhi suno. They have pulled these things in their system and they are making certain changes to it, right? So the local Git, when I say local, it means the Git which is running on their computer, laptop, whatever, needs to know that, hey, this is the change being made, right? And of course, then we will have to transfer this change to the cloud, and we will come to that. Abhi ke liye itna, theek hai? Okay, so now we are clear so far. आगे चलते हैं, right? So हमने इतना सब बात कर लिया, right? So why we need Git हमने वो भी discuss कर लिया. Basically, I've just written some pointers. I'm just going through them with you. So why we using Git? Because of version management, and we want to collaboratively work together. And nothing else that I can think of that I need to tell you right now. Okay, just that how it works. Let's just talk a bit about that. So this thing we've understood, right? I'll just remove all of this. Right. So guys, there are a few things which happen in Git. There is a workflow, right? इसको समझते हैं, ठीक है? अभी मैं I'm going to tell you something, right? So there are few things in Git. So there is one thing which is called WD or working directory, right? Directory का मतलब होता है folder, ठीक है? तो अभी इसका ये मतलब है when you are at the working directory, right? This is basically where you are working, ठीक है? मतलब जो आपने कोड अपने पास रखा है, जो अमित और श्वेता ने अपने पास कोड रखा था, where they make changes is their working directory, ठीक है? ओके, वर्किंग डायरेक्टरी पता लग गया सबको क्या है? बेसिकली वेयर यू आर मेकिंग कोड चेंजेस इज द वर्किंग डायरेक्टरी, ओके? और वर्किंग ट्री, परफेक्ट श्वेता. ट्री एंड डायरेक्टरी आर नॉट ऑल दैट डिफरेंट, राइट? सो दिस इज द वर्किंग डायरेक्टरी और वर्किंग ट्री, राइट? उसके बाद होता क्या है, when you make certain changes to a file, right? There's a file that you made changes to. So Git is able to recognize these changes, ठीक है? Now what you can do is Git also has another area which is called SA, right? Or staging area, right? So वो क्या होता है, वो भी मैं आपको दिखा देता हूँ कोड में, right? So अभी हमने Git status किया guys, तो हमें बोल रहा है कि यार ये वाला फाइल मॉडिफाई हो गया, right? Let's say I'm sure about this file, right? मुझे लग रहा है यार हाँ मेरे चेंजेस सही हैं and मुझे यही पुश करना है to the server so that Shweta can take a pull and work on my changes, right? So code sharing, of course. So I will say git add, right? Git add is a function which takes to which you need to tell क्या add करना है. So I say responsive.html. Git add responsive.html. When I press enter, ठीक है, मतलब I've executed this command. अब git status करते हैं, ठीक है? पढ़ो क्या लिखा है यहाँ पे. It says changes to be committed, right? And it's basically telling me अगर इनको यहाँ से हटाना है तो do this, right? So this is basically the staging area, ठीक है? पहले आपने working directory में change किया. When you said git add to that particular file, those changes will flow to staging area. Got it? Right? You made your changes in working directory, right? And then there's something called a staging area, which is the second layer, right? Once you are sure that your changes are correct and this is what you want to do, you say git add that particular file and those files will go to staging area. अब समझ आया? Got it? Staging area. Now, finally, if you are very sure that, hey, this is the change that I want to do, what you need to do is you need to commit these changes, right? Commit का क्या मतलब होता है यार? Commit का मतलब होता है, hey, I'm pretty sure that these are the changes that I want to do, and let's finalize them, right? Right? So अभी when I do git status, it's showing me कि भाई आपका ये वाला file edited है, right? Earlier it was showing as green, red, because it was not, it was in the working directory or working tree. Now it's showing as green because I have staged these things. Okay? But if I'm very sure about these things, right, कि भाई यही है हमारा code change, I do the third stage. So this was stage, and this stage is called commit. Right? Commit का क्या मतलब होता है? That hey, I'm pretty sure about my changes. Let's just finalize them. Okay? So then all of these things become a part of your Git repository, GR, right? And how do you do that? Code में भी देख लेते हैं. I say git commit, right? So if I press enter on this, Git is basically giving me this prompt. It's asking me, hey, you have an empty commit message, right? So what Git is trying to tell me is, hey, if you do not add a commit message, I cannot accept this file, right? So it becomes stage. Commit message का क्या मतलब होता है? Basically, whenever you have made some changes, it's a good practice to talk about the change that you have done, right? So see what I'm going to do. I'm going to say here git commit. Now you tell the message. For that you give a flag -m, open quotes, because it's a string, and you say changing the background, the border color to brown. That's it, right? Now the moment I say enter, what does it say? One file changed, right? There has been one insertion and one deletion. Why it is saying that? Because it removed that thing which was here earlier tag, and then it replaced it with brown, right? So git commit -m basically committed the changes to my repository. Now what happens if I do git status? It says on branch master and nothing to commit. Did everyone understand this? Add commit. Yes, not very hard, right? Okay, cool. Okay, commit एक बार, ठीक है. Guys, what happens is when you have made the changes which you had to in your Git repository, you have staged them, right? Stage means I'm sort of final that hey, I want to, I will be accepting these changes, right? After that, what you can do is you can literally make those changes a part of your repository, right? That it's like, hey, I'm final, right? So I said git commit, and then to commit, you have to give a message that, hey, so it's a good practice to talk about what you're doing, right? So I said git commit -m, changing the border color to brown, because that is the code change that we have done here, right? Okay. Got it? And basically whatever commits that we have made, we can look at them by using a command called git log, right? So when I say git log enter, it's showing us two things, right? So this was the initial commit which I had made when I said don't ask what I'm doing, right? And this is the second commit, right? So in this I had given a commit initial, and in this I have given the commit changing the border color to brown, right? Understood? Yes, or you can split it into multiple commits, Jerry. Clear, guys? हाँ सर, आप लोग ही करेंगे. आपका प्रोजेक्ट तो आप लोग को ही करना पड़ेगा ना. मैं if it was a failure, it will tell you. Got it, guys? आगे बढ़ें. Shall I move forward, guys? Okay. So we know git commit repeat once, sir. ठीक है. Like I said, once you are pretty sure that hey, these are the changes that I want to move forward, I say git commit and I give a message that hey, this is what I want to do, right? Now doing this will make those changes permanently a part of your repository, right? So now you can see that these two commits are a part of my repository, right? Clear? So just remember, there is staging. I did not talk about -f command here. Changes show everyone. What are you talking about? -m means message. Git commit and the commit message which you want to give. Where did you even get the idea of merge, yaar? Suno na dhyan se. So it's not making a version or anything, Bharti. It's just that this thing, right? The commit ID. So every commit has one ID, right? This is a commit ID. This is a commit ID, right? This is basically the new version of the file. This is the new version of your system. What was the command for git add? It was literally git add. Cool. Shall I move forward, guys? You're not asking relevant questions. Concept समझो, code लिखना सिखा दूंगा. Okay, I'll just finish this. Okay, chalo aage. Yes, you can add multiple files. I'll tell you how to. Yes, you can modify after commit. See, modification to yahan pe hona hai na. So let's say I want to make it black again. I can do that. Then I again go here, I say git status. It says, hey, this file has been modified. So what I do is I say git add responsive.html. I say git status. So it's already staged. Now I say git commit -m reverting color back to black. Right? And now you do git log. So basically now there are three commits. There was initial commit, changing to brown and reverting to black. Cool. चले आगे दोस्तों, बोलो. What if multiple people edit the same file? Siddiq, they'll be doing it on their personal computers, right? So they are free to do that. It's only when you try to take these. So these are personal changes, right? Which are happening. These are happening on my computer. Let's say they can happen on your computer. Things only happen when it's pushed to the server, right? So there is going to be one server where these changes are getting pushed to. Cool. आगे बढ़े. राहुल कुछ क्वेश्चन पूछ लेते हैं ना लोग, दोस्त बताना तो पड़ता है. GitHub is a tool for Git. अभी मत करो ये सब बातें, सुनो जो मैं बता रहा हूँ, ठीक है? So you know working directory, you know staging area and you know Git repository, ठीक है? हमने देख लिया कि भाई commit कैसे करते हैं, right? Now there are certain definitions which you need to know और Git कैसे काम करता है, ठीक है? उसकी थोड़ी सी बात कर लेते हैं. Okay. So what happens, guys, is when you are using Git, Yeah, now you got to stop asking questions. I'll tell you all of these things, Shuchita. अरे कोड समझ में आएगा ना बाबा, रुको तो सही। 10 मिनट तो वहीं पढ़ाते हुए यार, फोकस करो ना थोड़ी देर, ठीक है? What I'm telling you is, so there are a few definitions that I want to give you, right? So the first definition that I want to tell you is something called as a blob, B-L-O-B, right? It stands for something which you can Google blob क्या होता है, B-L-O-B, right? So each version of a file, right? मतलब जब भी आप फाइल में कुछ चेंजेस कर रहे हैं, right? So it's creating a new version of that file, correct? Right? So since it's creating a new version of that file, you need a way to understand that, hey, this file has changed in a certain way, right? There has been certain change in this file, right? So guys, Git में, since Git does not care about the content of the file, right? इसका मतलब समझना. Look at this, what I'm trying to tell you, I'll explain now. Look at these commits, right? All of these commits, they have some ID, right? This is one ID, this is one ID, and this is another ID, right? So how are these IDs getting formed, right? So the way it works, guys, is Git क्या करता है? जैसे ही आपने फाइल में कोई चेंज किया और या फिर आपने मल्टीपल फाइल्स में बहुत सारे चेंजेस किए, right? When you are doing these commands, right? Git commit -m after Git adding and all those things, what Git does is it creates the different version of that file, right? Because Git has to remember that, hey, this was the change that I have to make, right? It has to remember, right? So essentially how it works is, वो उस पूरी फाइल को पढ़ता है, the file that we have made a change to, right? And whatever the change was, the delta, मतलब पहली फाइल ये थी, उस फाइल के ऊपर आपने कुछ चेंज किया, it basically takes the content of the file and it hashes it, right? What does hash mean? Hash का मतलब होता है, let's say the content of the file was all of these things, right? You can say these things, right? This whole thing is the content of this file. Now what I have to do is I have to maintain the changes in this file, and for me as Git, as a system, मैं उस फाइल को hash कर देता हूँ. Hash का क्या मतलब होता है? You take the whole file, right? And you apply some mathematical formula to it. You apply the same formula each time, right? And आप उससे एक random value बनाते हैं. वो value कैसी दिखती है? This thing. So this is called a hash, right? This is the commit hash. So ये commit hash है, ये commit hash है, and that's how it goes, right? Right. So when you've created a hash, Git remembers everything in hash, right? And it's able to back the hash, right? What does that mean? अगर let's say मुझे देखना है कि इस commit के अंदर क्या changes थे, right? So I can just copy this commit का ID, right? I go here and I say git show and I give the hash ID of this commit, right? Now when I press enter, it says that, hey, you had removed this and you had added this, right? So minus border 1 pixel solid and plus was border whatever this is, right? How is Git able to do this? It's able to do this because ये सारी information कि कौन सी लाइन हटाई गई, कौन सी लाइन डाली गई, इस commit, इस hash में present है, right? इस ID में, ये जो आपको बड़ा सा अजीब सा string दिख रहा है जिसमें नंबर भी हैं, सब कुछ है, right? It has information about what has changed here. Understood? Right? So the commit IDs or the commit hashes actually contain the diff or the difference that has happened, right? Yes, so this code will show you the changes that you have made because इसके अंदर ही वो hash, मतलब इस hash के अंदर ये details हैं. शुजिता, क्या नहीं समझ में आ रहा आपको? What is it that you're not understanding? I have only said this thing that whenever you make a commit in Git, each commit gets a hash, right? And each commit gets a unique hash. And when I wanted to see कि इस hash के अंदर क्या हुआ था, I can simply say git show and give this hash ID, right? Does it make sense, Shuchita? Hash is checksum Shweta. I'm getting a tongue twister. तो मैं यही बता रहा हूँ that हर एक गिट कमिट का एक हैश होता है. अगर आपको ये देखना है कि आपने उस कमिट के अंदर चेंज क्या किया था, यू कैन सिंपली से गिट शो एंड द आईडी ऑफ दैट कमिट. सो लेट्स से मुझे इस कमिट में देखना था व्हाट हैज चेंज्ड, राइट? सो व्हाट आई डिड इज आई सेड गिट commit git show and I gave the name of that hash. Got it? And what that does is it tells me what has happened here, right? ये डिफरेंस हुआ था, इसने मुझे सिर्फ इतना बता दिया. When we use git, अरे मेघा अभी तो सब समझाया ना, when you are collaborating and all of these things, ये सब तो मत पूछो ना. Shall I move forward, folks? Okay, now I will move forward. Okay, so I told you what a blob is, right? Blob वो hash होता है या फिर वो unique ID होता है जो git हर commit पे generate करता है. ठीक है? There are some other definitions also, but let me just hold on for right now. ठीक है? Commit आपको पता है commit क्या करता है guys? Every commit holds the current state of a repository, right? ठीक है? So at the end of the day, commit is just a unique ID, right? And every commit has a pointer, right, to its parent, right? तो इसका मतलब ये है कि अगर आप एक parent commit पे खड़े हैं, right? इसका ये मतलब है. So if you want to know where you are currently standing, you do git log and you see, hey, मैं यहाँ पे खड़ा हूँ, and it's saying head of master. मतलब the जो सबसे ऊपर वाला commit होता है, it's called head. And since I am on the master branch right now, I'll just later explain you branches क्या होते हैं. It's telling me that, hey, this is the head commit of master branch. Okay. समझ में आ गया दोस्तों? ओके, ठीक है, आगे बढ़ते हैं. राइट? सो हमें समझ में आ गया, सब कुछ समझ में आ गया, आगे चलते हैं. ठीक है? एंड दिस हेड दैट यू सी, this is a pointer. If some of you are aware with C or C++, head is a pointer which always points to the latest commit in any branch. ठीक है? ठीक है? And there are various other commands in Git जिनकी बात मैं अभी नहीं करूंगा, बाद में करता हूँ. ठीक है? Now you can of course set up your own Git using various types of tools, right? Which you can read about. बहुत सारी चीजें होती हैं उसमें. There are some Git configurations also. I'll just talk about these things. Maybe not, right now is not the right time. Right? Right now we will just understand कि Git की life cycle क्या होती है, Git में होता क्या है, कैसे मतलब where do you use Git is a question which I will try to answer very well right now. Right? So guys, this is how it works, right? So today, if you were to go to GitHub, and I'm pretty sure most of you have heard at least GitHub करके कोई चीज होती है, right? You know GitHub, right? Yes, but you don't know how to use it. It seems like that. Anyway, I'll teach you. Okay. So Git is the technology. GitHub is a tool or a tool chain which is based on Git, right? Sorry, I had received a text from someone. Okay, so what is GitHub? एक बार समझते हैं. So GitHub is an online repository in the cloud, right? So it's a repository or as we tech people mostly call it repo, right? It's a repo, right? So now अब हम क्या करते हैं guys? सबसे पहले मुझे काम करना start करना है किसी code base पे, right? Let's say I have a repo and I want you guys to start working on it. What do I first need to do? I first need to clone this repo. In terminologies को समझ लो. Clone का क्या मतलब होता है? You take this repo and you get it into your system, right? So I will clone this repo, right? When I clone this repo, what I get is my working copy or my working directory, जिसकी मैं भी बात कर रहा था, right? So I have my working copy. Let me say working copy. तो अब मेरे पास क्या है, जो कोड ऊपर था रिपोजिटरी में जिससे बाकी सब लोग भी क्लोन कर सकते थे, मैंने क्लोन कर लिया एंड आई हैव द वर्किंग कॉपी ऑफ इट, राइट? मेकिंग एन एग्जैक्ट कॉपी, राइट? देन ऑफ कोर्स आई हैव द कॉपी. मुझे कुछ चेंजेस करने थे, कुछ बग फिक्सेस करने थे, कुछ नया कोड लिखना था, व्हाटएवर. सो I edited it, I added something to it or whatever, right? Right. Now you have the modified copy. It's called modified copy. कुछ भी बोल रहा हूँ, not very important. ठीक है? Right? अब आप क्या करेंगे? अब आप of course देखेंगे यार git status करके कि मैंने क्या क्या फाइल्स चेंज किए हैं, right? So then you will review it. How are you going to review it? You will review it by doing git status, right? जो मैं आपको बार-बार करके दिखा रहा था. You will review the changes. अगर आपको changes ठीक लगा, तो what you're going to do, guys? You're going to commit these changes. Commit. Right? So I commit these changes. Okay? Now, when I have committed these changes, now there is only one thing remaining to be done, right? मैंने changes तो commit कर लिया. Now I have to send it back to the repo also, right? So that the fixed version of the code is available back in the repo for other people to use. Got it? So then what I do is I do something which is called as push. So you cloned, you made certain changes, you modified, you reviewed your code, you did git commit, and git commit के बाद final stage पे होती है push. Got it, people? समझ में आया सबको? One time, please. सुनो फिर one time. There was a Git repository in GitHub or somewhere in the cloud. First, you need to get its code on your local machine, right? On your local computer. So you said clone. Now you have the working copy of that. Okay. Now you did some changes to it. You added, updated, modified, whatever. You reviewed these changes, right? Then you staged these changes, git add करके. Finally, you committed these changes. Commit करने के बाद आपको क्या करना है? You have to take these changes back to the cloud, right? To the main repository. Then you said git, you do git push, and everything is available there. इतना ही तो है. समझ में आ गया? If one want to see what has made changes, he can check via feature. I don't know what you mean by that, but ठीक है. Comment लिखा है. यहाँ पे push लिखा है. Rahul is saying for today it's enough. ठीक है, I understand these changes are very new for you यार. These things are very new for you, but we'll have to cover them tomorrow. मतलब, see, I'm good either way. No, I can go as long as you want. You guys should be willing to absorb it. Heard this for the first time. Some are saying please enough, some are saying please continue. What to do? ठीक है यार, this is very confusing. Okay. What do I do with you guys? Chat पे कोई लिख रहा है stop, कोई लिख रहा है go. Okay. Vote करते हैं, ठीक है? You know how to raise your hands in Zoom? If you want me to stop, raise your hands. Raise your hands jaldi. 11 people have raised their hand. Jaldi karo yaar, raise. खत्म करो. Go on, go on, go on. जिसको भी raise करना है, raise your hands. There's a raise button. Raise hands in buttons in Zoom. Okay, ठीक है. Whoever wants me to अब ये लोग नीचे करो ना हाथ. Everyone put your hands down. If you want me to continue, raise your hands. Go on, raise your hands. Okay, the people who raised their hands right now are more. We'll have to continue. Sorry. Okay, now I'm not listening to you. Let's continue. Okay. We talked about the life cycle of a typical Git, this thing, right? Of a Git repository, how you work in a Git repository, right? So next thing, what we need to understand right now, guys, is how do we create a repository in the cloud, right? So this should be interesting for you. So we'll have, I think you guys are going to enjoy this, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'll create a new repository in the cloud. Okay? देखते हैं Git. अरे, this is very interesting, Baba. GitHub पे नई repository कैसे create करें and all that, right? So I am going to say, I'll just share my screen by the way. पहले तो my browser screen, right? Okay, and there are various Git tools out there. I am specially a fan of GitHub, right? So I go to github.com, right? And I'm going to create a repository here, right? Amit, I just hold that question. I will answer that for you. So I say sign in, then of course I will be signing up with my email ID, with my GitHub ID, and a lot of things here have happened. Amit is following me. Okay. So what we are going to do here is we are going to create a new repository. I have a few organizations also. So I'm going to call this repository as NS1 Newton School, or NS1. Let's just call it Newton 1. Okay. And I'm going to make this a public repository. This kind of matlab hai that everyone will be able to see it on GitHub, right? So then what you guys have to do, you guys have to pull it. Okay. And that should be fun. Cool. So I say create repository. That's it. So what this guy is saying is, hey, I have created a new repository, which is this, right? And now what we need to do, guys, is we need to connect this repository to you're able to see this terminal screen, right? Let's say I wanted to connect this repository to my local repository, right? Right. So this is my repository, which we had made, and this had all these things, you know, where we had done changing border color to brown, reverting color back to black, and whatever this thing, right? Let's say I want to connect my repository, and we want to just take this repository and push it to our GitHub so that it's accessible for everyone, right? तो उसके लिए हम क्या कर सकते हैं? When you're coming here, it's basically telling you do these things, but you don't have to worry about this. The only thing you need to worry about is this. When I click SSL